Welcome to the Biomolecules project interactive scene. In this video, I'll show you not only the requirements, but also the code to make the interactive scene. First, let's start with the requirements. What you need to do before coding is you need to find, upload, and clean a minimum of 5 relevant items. So again, if you watched the intro video, you saw that the interactive scene is all about sliding things over using this video display. And so you're going to need to upload some items related to however you're displaying the biomolecule. So three of the 5 should be correct choices, and the other 2 should be incorrect choices. So you should have a minimum of 5 things, and then 3 should be correct, and the 2 other ones should be incorrect. That's just the baseline. Let's take a look at the code and see how it's going to look. So I have right over here some items related that I'm going to have people kind of slide over and tell me which ones are the correct biomolecule. If you notice that this one right here is actually a fatty acid, that is not a correct biomolecule, and this is also an amino acid, which is not a correct biomolecule. So what I'm going to do, so I've got 3 of the correct ones. I've got proteins, carbs, and nucleic acids over here. So what you're going to need to do is first, once you upload them, so if you need to find one, you're going to go to Google search, and then you'll click on it and then take a screenshot, which is Command-Shift-4, and screenshot whatever the item is. And then you'll come back over to Scratch, and then you'll upload your sprite. So once you upload it, it'll highlight it as a desktop image, and then you'll just upload the one that you need uploaded. Okay, so that's how you'll import these things. And so that's not one I want to use. That one will work, but it's not one I want to use. So now that I have these, I referred to this idea of cleaning them up. So what I'm talking about with cleaning them up is you'll click on one, and what you want to do is get rid of all the white space around it. That's going to kind of mess up the interactive scene portion. So you'll need to be in bitmap format. And what you'll need to do is select the eraser icon, and you can change the size of the eraser here to whatever size you want. But again, you're going to want to, as best as possible, get rid of all of the white kind of border around each one of these items. So take some time to clean that, and then subsequently clean each one of these things. So I don't have time in this video to go through and clean each one the way that I want it. Oh, when you clean it, make sure again that you're in bitmap when you clean. If you try to clean it in vector, it won't stay cleaned up. So I don't have time again to show you all of these cleaned up, but once I do have them cleaned up, the next thing that I want to do is I want to go ahead and I want to rename each one of these things. So you'll notice that each one of them came over, each one of them came over with a certain name, like a screenshot. They've got a name over here as well as the costume. So we want to give them descriptive names. So this one was my fatty acid, so I'll go ahead and change that. I'm using camel case, where the first letter of the first word is lowercase and the first letter of the second word is uppercase, and I just combine those words. So I've got a fatty acid here. I've got my amino acid here. So right now you should pause the video and go through and rename yours. Carbohydrate. And this one was protein. Nope, this one was nucleic acid. Okay, now you can, if you want, change the costume so that it matches. You don't have to, but to me, it just makes sure that everything is matched up. So in addition to changing the sprite name, you may want to change the costume name. Again, you don't have to change the costume name. The more important thing is that you change the sprite name. All right, once you have that changed, the next thing that you may want to clean up is you'll notice that Some of these are so small, like people won't be able to tell sometimes whether it's the what thing it is. So you may want to make it bigger, or in some cases make it smaller. So again, you'll find the image, you'll convert it to vector, and then you'll use this sizing, the select arrow, and then you can resize them so that they're a little bit smaller or bigger, whichever you want. Since all these things are going to be like kind of sliding over to the side, I want to just make sure that these give me enough space, and this gives me enough space here. That looks good. The only thing that I might want to do is, in addition to resizing them, if it's still not very clear what it is, what you could do, now notice I'll move this to the center and that moves this here. What you can do is add some text underneath. Like this one has amino acid written underneath. You can add some text underneath. So as long as I'm in vector mode, I don't want to be in bitmap, but I want to be in vector mode, I can add in some text underneath. So this one was a carbohydrate. And once I select off of it, I can move that and I can resize this text. So now at least my users can kind of see what it is or like read what it is. If that's going to give it away, then you don't have to use it. But now watch, when I drag this over, since it's considered one sprite, the whole thing drags over. You can also resize the whole thing by selecting on it and resizing it from there. All right, good. So when you upload the item, you'll want to change the name, you'll want to clean it up with the eraser, and you'll want to make it bigger or smaller, potentially adding text if needed. Okay, at this point what I want to do is I'm done with these. I've positioned them where I want them to be when the kind of thing starts. One thing that I wanted to show you too, sorry, before I move on, is if you wanted to change how it's laid out, you can change the direction of it so that it's vertical or laying horizontally. Okay. All right, I'm done with my sprites here. Let's go ahead and go to my backdrop. I want to paint a new backdrop. So as long as I'm in vector mode, if I'm in vector mode, if I try to paint something, the background, it won't let me, so I've got to convert it to bitmap. And then I will just go ahead and paint this background. Over this background, what I want to do is type some instructions for the scene. So when your users get to the scene, they should know what to do. If you've got like a bar and then it all of a sudden becomes an interactive scene, they're not going to know what you want to do. So once I've put my color, I want to convert back to vector and type in some text. So I'll say move all biomolecules past, oops, I can't see anything, so I'll do a Command A. I'll change the fill. There we go. So now I'll say move all biomolecules past the red line. This tells my users what to do. I can go ahead and position it where I want it to be positioned, make it bigger, smaller. I can also change the font if I want. But again, you must have something here so that people know what to do. Once you have that, let's go ahead and add a little bit of code to the stage. So make sure you're not on a sprite. We don't want to be on a sprite. We want to be on the stage, and we want to add some code to it. We want to have a when flag clicked, and you'll want to set the video transparency to 100. You'll notice that the video sensing is down here on mine. You'll have to click here and you'll add it in by clicking on this, and then you'll get the video sensing blocks. Okay, so once you get that over, set the video transparency to 100%. Now we got to make a sprite for this red line. What I'll do is go to choose a sprite and I'll paint it. And I'll go ahead and I'll make a line for myself. Now if I make it as a 1, you'll notice that it's just too thin. So what I'll do is I'll change the width of this, maybe 15 or something like that. And then I'll go ahead and make my line. Well, I did say move all the biomolecules past the red line. So I'll position this somewhere here. Move it past the red line, and right now it's black. In order for me to fill that in, I need to be in vector mode, and what I want to do is select the fill, and then I can change to like my red line and try to get that red. Okay, that looks good. And then I can go ahead and, oops, I need to be in bitmap in order to fill. And then I can go ahead and fill my red line. All right, so now I've got my instructions, I've got my red line, and now, one more thing. Change the sprite to vertical line. So vertical line. And notice that I've got that in camel case as well. The V in vertical is lowercase and the L in line is uppercase. There's just one costume for that, so that's fine. And now let's go ahead and add some scripts to this, some code. Go ahead and click on the code tab. And what I'll need to do is I'll do when flag clicked. I want this hidden when the flag is clicked, so I'm going to go to looks and I'll hide it. Next is go to events, and when I receive, I'm going to receive a new message, and I'm going to call that message parts, P-A-R-T-S. When I receive parts, I want to go to show, or looks, and I want to go to show, and then I want to position it. So right now, it's where I want it to be. So I'll go to motion and drag this out. If I didn't like this and I changed it, change the position of it, well then I have to see my X and Y right here. Notice it changed for me right here, so then I can add that in. And then the last thing that I need as far as code for this line, for the vertical line, is that I need another event when I receive, and this one is going to be main menu. It's going to be lowercase main, capital M menu, which is camel case, and I'm going to go to looks, and I'll go ahead and hide that. All right, my code for my line is done. Now at this point, I just need to add code to my sprites. So again, finding my sprites up here, let's just begin with fatty acid. And what I want to do is add over an event. When flag clicked, I want it to hide, so I'll go to looks and I'll hide it. And I've positioned them where I want them to be. So make sure that you position them like kind of in like a neat stack. Don't put them on top of each other. And then I want to set this position. So like my fatty acid, I like that it's right there. Okay, I've got this set up. The next thing that I want is when I receive. And when I receive main menu, I want this thing to hide. And now let's add a little bit more sophisticated code for the parts. So I'll go to events, and when I receive, and this time it's going to be when I receive parts, I want it to show. And then I want to make sure that it goes to the place that I originally had it set up for. So I'll go to this particular location in case something got moved or whatever. And then I'm going to add a control here. So forever, okay, I'm going to add in an if statement, and then I'm going to add in a second if statement. Okay, so I'll add in two if statements, and it's going to evaluate for two things. First of all, if the video motion on this sprite, so if the video motion on this sprite is greater than a certain value, then I want it to move. So I'll go to my operators. So if the video motion, oops, let me drag over the if the video motion. So if the video motion, oh, I need to go to my operator on this first. If, and I'm going to drag the video motion in first. Okay, let's go back here. If the video motion on this sprite, make sure that it's in that first slot and not the second slot. So if the video motion on this sprite is greater than 20, well then I want to change the X value because the X is going left and right. So I want to change the x value by -10. Okay, so I'll put a -10 because I want it to go this way. If I was going to the other way, it'd be a +10. And then finally, if it's touching the vertical line, well then I want it to say something. So I'll go ahead and put if touching, I need to go to my sensing block. If touching, and I need to find my vertical line, then I want to say something, whether it is whatever it is. Okay, so in this case, it's going to say, sorry, I am a fatty acid, because it said move all the biomolecules across the red line. So it's going to show that for maybe 4 seconds or something like that, and then eventually it's going to hide. So once you drag it over, it's going to hide at that point. All right, so now once I click my flag, and if the video motion on that sprite, when I receive parts, that thing shows up. And if the video motion, you can't see it right now, but the video motion is hitting that thing, it's moving over to the left side. So what I need to do is I need to create this so that there's a transparency while you're working on it. So in order to have that transparency show up, what I want you to do is go to video motion and do a turn video on and set video transparency to 50. Okay, so let's go ahead and click this, and now the video motion is on. The next thing that I want to see is whether this vertical line shows up. So I'm going to click this to have the vertical line show up. And now when the video motion on that is on, and I drag it over, and once it hits that, it says, sorry, I'm a fatty acid, it displays, and then it's gone. Good. So what I'm going to do is, that's all set. Let me go ahead and turn the video motion off. There we go. And now let's go ahead and add that code to all the other ones. So I'll go back here, and I'll stop all the scripts. And I want to add all of this code to each one of these folks right here. And I just want to add a few or delete a few things. So in order for me to add the code, I'll go ahead and go to each one. You'll notice that it kind of like hovers over ones that you want highlighted. And what I want to do is, yep, it's selecting that one. So I've just selected that, and it's there. It's not over here. It's over the one that I just wanted. But what I do want to do is add the other code first. I'll add that one in, shaking there. I'll snap and add that one in. Now for each one, I want to go ahead and change the positioning because I have my positioning where I want it to go. So I'll go to motion, and I'll get rid of these blocks right here and then add in their current position. So I'll get rid of these and add in their position. And then I need to update whether this thing is. So this one is going to say, sorry, I am an amino acid. Okay, over here, I need to drag over those 3 blocks of code to the protein. 1, 2, 3. I'll go over to the protein, and then I'll kind of get these things out of the way. I'll update the position. So I'll update the position. And I'll update the position here. And then I will update the text. So this one is a protein, so I'll say, yes, I am a protein. Okay. And now, let me just test this out. So I've got 3 of them set. I didn't do the other 2, but hopefully you get the idea. So what I want to do is just go ahead and test it out. So I'll click the flag, and those 2 things should disappear. And then when I click on when I receive parts, okay, those things, these items should show up. and I can just test each one. I want to make sure that I click on the vertical line to actually have it show up as well. Okay, and then you'll notice that if I swat over at one, it's an amino acid, and then fatty acid, and then I am a protein. Done. At this point, you are done with your interactive scene. What you can do is make sure that you've added all the code that you need for all the other sprites and move on to video number 2.